Hello everyone, my name is Michaela and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to talk about Evil Dead Rise. Ooh, exciting. The movie's directed by Lee Cronin and it's about a family that discovers a demonic book and gets possessed by demons. I actually saw this movie on the opening Friday that it came out, so as of recording this video it's been almost exactly a month, but it's fine because I remember everything. I was super excited to see this movie. I know that there was a lot of hype surrounding it. A lot of people really love the original Evil Dead and the remake. I think I actually like the 2013 remake more than the original. The original was like very silly and campy and you know, it was from the 80s, so it kind of looked like shit, but in a good way, like a good campy fun way. And the remake is definitely a lot more serious in tone. The main character is a recovering addict and there's not a lot of silliness. The effects are obviously much better. It came out like 30 years later. And I think that everybody, myself included, loves the ending of that movie. But anyway, I was really excited going into this one. I thought the trailers were really scary and I really appreciate that they did not give a lot of this movie away. And I'm pretty sure Lee Cronin was saying that he wanted people to be like nauseated from this. Like he was anticipating to really gross people out and get under your skin and like maybe make you vomit. I swear I heard that somewhere. Maybe that's wrong. The intro to this movie is so fun. Going into it, you already know that it's gonna take place in an apartment building. So when the movie opens at a lake house, it's like a fun little surprise. There's three friends. One of them is super sick and gnarly looking. And then she scalps her friend. And then they run out to the lake and she decapitates their other friend. And this scene ends with a beautiful title card sequence. It's the sick girl, who's obviously possessed by a deadite, rising up out of the water and just levitating there. And then behind her, you get the title card with the super intense music playing. It was beautiful. So the premise of this movie is already very different than the other ones. I actually haven't seen Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, so that's why I'm not going to be referencing those. In the other ones, the main characters go to like a cabin in the woods. They're in a very isolated forest. It's very off the beaten path and you have to like drive a ways to even get to a real road. But the setting in this one is totally new. It's like the complete opposite of that. They're in Los Angeles, a very densely populated city, and they're in an apartment building that obviously has plenty of other people inside of it. The main characters in this movie are for the most part like super realistic. They're a very like cool, modern, and progressive family. It's not just some super out of touch old guy's assumption of what a progressive family looks like, where he uses like Facebook memes and Disney Channel shows as a reference. There are three kids, two teenagers, Danny and Bridget, and then the youngest, Cassie, who's like, I don't know, probably like 8 or something. Then you've got their mom, Ellie, and then there's Ellie's sister, Beth, who has come to visit them after finding out that she is pregnant. A little oopsie whoopsie pregnancy. But the characters in this movie don't just feel realistic, they're like actually cool people. Beth is a guitar tech, and thank the Lord that this movie did not portray her as like a caricature of a punk or like a rock and roller. Like her character is way more accurate than a lot of other media portrayals of characters like this. Ellie is a very cool, progressive, feminist mom. Cassie's cool. I mean, she's like a kid, so... But she has a big stick with a doll head on the end, and she calls it Staffney. So that's a fun, quirky thing. Bridget is into activism and social causes. She's talking to her mom about going to a protest, which I think was for environmentalism. She's got that teenage lesbian hair, but I don't actually know her sexuality. It's never mentioned in the movie because it's just not relevant. The oldest, Danny, is actually played by a trans actor, and it's never stated in the movie or like anywhere else if Danny is supposed to be trans or not, which I really respect and I think is really cool to just let a character be a character. And just because the actor is trans, that doesn't mean we have to default to incorporating that into the character that they're playing. So yeah, very cool and a big step in the right direction for good, positive representation of trans people in media. I think Danny's character is actually very interesting and unique and authentic. This kid is super into DJing. And I don't mean DJing like Marshmello and DJ Snake. I'm talking about someone with a mixer and 2 turntables on each side. You know, like scratching and juggling and doing all that cool shit. It's super neat to see a young character in 2023 be interested in something like this. Maybe I'm not giving teenagers enough credit, but I feel like other kids his age would have no idea that this is even like a thing. But I love that they gave the teenagers actual personalities instead of just making them the average bratty, misbehaved, hormonal teenager. This movie overall was super fun to watch, but there were also a lot of odd choices made. Like, it's weird how good some of it is, and then how annoying or confusing some of the other stuff is. After Beth gets to their house, Ellie makes the kids go and get pizza so that her and Beth can have a little adult conversation about the baby. The kids go, and when they get back, there's a huge earthquake and the parking garage is all effed up and crumbly. There's a giant hole in the ground, and Danny decides it's a good idea to explore it. And he finds a bunch of religious paraphernalia along with the Book of the Dead and some records, which conveniently is very exciting for him. But this kid is an idiot though for going underneath a collapsed structure immediately after an earthquake. That's like the biggest no-no possible. Somebody please teach this kid about aftershocks. And I still don't really understand why that stuff would be there. Like, why it would be in Los Angeles, why it would be underneath an apartment building, why the stuff just got left there. It seems very out of place, and like they kind of had to just throw it in there to make it work with this setting. This movie has so much foreshadowing. To be honest, when I was watching the movie, I didn't even really notice at first how glaring and obvious they were. Actually, I knew they were obvious, but they made them really annoying. And it just didn't annoy me at the time because I've gotten so used to it by now, watching so many horror movies, and it happens in a lot of them. So I think my brain kind of just glossed over the fact that it was really ridiculous. This movie is a very good example of Chekhov's gun. And quite literally too, because one of the characters says really loudly and obnoxiously, "I'm gonna go get my gun!" And in the beginning, Staphne breaks in half, and it's like a super jagged, sharp wooden stake that's obviously gonna be used on someone. Also, if I was the mom, I would have confiscated that immediately after it broke, because that's terrifying, and I don't trust children to not accidentally hurt each other. And there was a ton more examples too. I feel like if you're gonna use that much foreshadowing, maybe throw in a couple red herrings here and there. It might help not make everything so obvious. So I know I already gave praise to the realisticness of this family, but that being said, some of the writing is a little weird, which I know I kind of just mentioned with the neighbor talking about going and getting his gun, but he also has another very weird, unnatural foreshadowing moment before that. Like, he does it twice, and it just sounds ridiculous. When he's talking about the vents and how his damn cats are always getting up in the damn vents. But also the writing for Cassie is a little weird. She is a likable character, and you're always rooting for her, you know, she's a little girl, but her dialogue kind of feels like it was written by somebody who just started writing. That sounds kind of mean, but it's not good. She doesn't have like a natural flow when she speaks. It's like she just has lines, and these are the lines that she says. She's got a lot of little one-liners, and it's supposed to be kind of comedic, but it does not feel natural at all. Kids don't talk like that. But it's weird, because I thought that the writing for the rest of the characters was good, so I don't know why those two characters felt so disjointed. Also, the amount of splitting up that the family does in this movie drives me a little crazy. Even though they're all in the same apartment, they always end up at like opposite sides of the apartment for some reason, instead of like making it a point to stay together, which I think most normal people would probably do. And it's a big apartment too. It's not just like our two characters in one room and then literally the next room over, the other two characters are in there. But I do want to say it is not big enough for a whole bunch of ruckus to be happening in one room, and then for anyone down the hall just to not hear it at all, not noticing all of the loud, very concerning noise. And that happens several times. I really appreciate that in this movie, Danny is the one that kind of releases the Deadites, but he doesn't actually read anything out loud. He plays the records with this turntable, and that goddamn priest recites the phrase that summons the Deadites. And as soon as it started happening, Danny got all freaked out and he tried to stop it. He tried to take the needle off, he tried to unplug it, he tried to, turn everything off, but the entire sound system became possessed, and so it wouldn't let him. It is so nice that in this one, we don't have like an asshole character that knowingly does something stupid kid and chooses to say the phrase out loud anyway, even though there's like, do not read out loud written all over it. And that book looks crazy. I definitely would have opened up the book and played the records if that were me. We get a little homage to the other movies where the first character to become possessed gets all wrapped up by a possessed tree and it inserts itself into her. But thankfully that part doesn't happen in this one. Ellie's in the elevator bringing up laundry and she gets all strung up with the elevator cables and it looks really, really cool. I also give big props to this movie for just going crazy with the child death. The on-screen child violence is definitely some of the most gruesome I've ever seen. And it was disturbing because you don't see that a lot in movies. The scene where you're looking through the peephole at the kids in the hallway, that was gnarly. All around there was a lot of great violence and gore. I actually saw a surprising amount of people that said it was lacking in the gore department, which I get, but also it's because it's children. The actress that plays Ellie in this is absolutely phenomenal. She's such a gorgeous woman, but holy hell is she also terrifying. The makeup department did a great job too. Most of the makeup looked very beautiful, honestly. And obviously I don't mean beautiful in the conventional sense. Even though all the makeup and effects looked pretty damn good, there is still a bit of campiness in this movie. The decapitated head at the beginning of the movie looks very camp. The neighbor's eyeball getting sucked out and then shot into his little brother's mouth and the little brother choking to death on it, I thought was hilarious, albeit a little out of place considering that that is not the overall tone of this movie at all. We get a Shining reference in here towards the end, which was a little too on the nose and honestly just kind of a tired reference in the first place in my opinion. It's been done a million bajillion bazillion times. Like, I love The Shining, but there are plenty of other big, very influential, referenceable movies that we could be referencing instead, but instead we're just gonna keep doing this over and over and over and over and over and over. And I don't know if the scene leading up to this was created specifically so that they could do a Shining reference, or if the reference was just like a byproduct of the elevator scene that they had already envisioned. Which in that case I get. It would have been really difficult to transition from the scene without doing a hallway of blood. So the giant mutant deadite monster at the end of this movie, wasn't really into it. I didn't really think it was scary, and honestly I thought it was very lacking in creativity and a little dumb looking. It's just a really simple body horror creature that's like not at all unique. Like, I've seen this before a lot. It's just all of their bodies like melted together into one being, which from what I remember, I think is kind of shaped like those dogs with short spine syndrome. So the ending parking garage sequence was probably the least interesting part of this movie for me, simply because the creature did nothing for me. The ending was a good emotional time though. It is very tense and thrilling and you're very nervous for the characters. Cassie and Beth both live, but only after they had to watch their family get possessed and mutilated and morphed into one giant lump and then thrown into a wood chipper. So they're probably never going to be normal again. But then at the very end, after they leave, a girl named Jessica heads to her car and is talking on the phone to her friend about going on vacation. And she's also talking very nonchalantly about the whole earthquake thing. Like, her only complaint was that like she couldn't use the internet. She was obviously on a different floor, but I don't know how this girl didn't hear the several gunshots being fired. But anyway, right before she gets into her car, the spirit of the deadites fly into her body. So I am an idiot. I didn't realize until like planning out the review for this movie, which was yesterday or the day before I'm recording this, that this girl, Jessica, from the end of the movie is the same girl at the beginning of the movie. The girl that was possessed and rose up out of the water. It literally never clicked. I might have realized and I just like forgot about it until now. That's a really weird, big, obvious thing for me to not pick up on. And I don't know how that happened. I think I might have missed something. I think I did miss the fact that that lake house day was supposed to be the day after. But anyway, that's the movie. I was actually really impressed with this one. It left me very satisfied. There wasn't really much left to be desired while I was leaving the theater. I felt pretty good about everything that I had just watched, besides the little issues with writing here and there. Oh yeah, the monster at the end also kind of sucked. Overall, I thought this movie was super enjoyable. I had a really fun time watching it. I was never bored, and they did a lot of good stuff that I'm not used to seeing in a lot of other movies. So yeah, overall, this movie is a big thumbs up. This is definitely one that I'm going to want to rewatch in the future, and I am very glad that I saw it in the theater. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I can start to get some views. And if you are watching this, let me know what you thought of the movie. If you agree or disagree with anything that I said, or if there's something interesting that you thought of and I didn't mention. I hope to see you next time. Bye!